0347 hours. The Strait of Hormuz, 21 miles of open water separating the Persian Gulf from the Gulf of Oman and separating the world economy from a catastrophe. On this morning, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy moves fast. 6 Sina-class fast attack craft surge out of Bandar Abbas in tight formation, running dark, no navigation lights, hugging the Iranian coastline. Behind them, a Type 2 09 submarine designated Eunice slides silently beneath the surface, running at periscope depth. Overhead, an Iranian Shahed 136 loitering munition drone swarms fan out across the strait in a coordinated pattern that military planners in Tehran spent 3 years rehearsing. Then the announcement comes, broadcast over Maritime Emergency Channel 16 across the entire region. All commercial vessel traffic through the Strait of Hormuz is hereby suspended by order of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Violators will be intercepted. The strait is closed. Tankers begin dropping anchor. Insurance companies pull coverage in real time. The price of oil spikes $14 a barrel in under 4 minutes on Asian markets. Tehran had calculated perfectly, or so they believed, but they had made a fatal miscalculation, and the United States Navy had been watching every single move for 72 hours before they made it. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a body of water, it is the jugular vein of the global energy supply. Every single day, roughly 20% of the world's traded oil passes through that narrow channel, about 17 million barrels. Saudi crude, Kuwaiti crude, Qatari liquefied natural gas, UAE petroleum, all of it funneled through a corridor so tight that supertankers must use designated traffic lanes to avoid colliding with each other. Closing the strait is not an act of regional defiance. It is a declaration of economic war against every nation on Earth that runs on fossil fuels, which in 2026 is still most of them. Iran understood this leverage intimately. The IRGCN had spent years developing what military analysts call an anti-access and area denial strategy, a 2AD in NATO terminology. The idea was simple in concept, lethal in execution. Flood the strait with enough fast boats, enough mines, enough drones, and enough shore-based missile batteries to make any American response prohibitively costly. Their Noor anti-ship missiles, reverse-engineered from Chinese C-802s, lined the mountainous coastline. Their midget submarines could lay mines faster than any minesweeper could clear them. And their drone swarms, their proudest achievement, were designed to overwhelm the point defense systems of any surface ship within range. Tehran's strategists had studied the 2019 tanker incidents. They had studied the USS Stark. They had studied every American hesitation point for 40 years. And they concluded that if Iran moved quickly enough, decisively enough, and created enough chaos in the first 6 hours, Washington would blink before it could respond. It was a reasonable theory, it was just completely wrong. Before we go any further, we want to hear from you. Do you think Iran's closure of the strait was a bluff designed to force negotiations, or a genuine military operation meant to go all the way? Drop your answer in the comments right now. The debate is already happening down there, and your take matters. Here is what Tehran did not know on the morning of their operation. 48 hours before the IRGCN launched its fast boats, a Boeing P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, tail number 169335, operating out of Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, had completed its third consecutive intelligence-gathering pass over the strait at 41,000 feet. Its AN/APY-10 multi-mode surface search radar had painted every surface contact in the Gulf with centimeter-level precision. Its acoustic processing systems had already fingerprinted the Yun submarine from its unique propeller cavitation signature, a signature as distinctive as a human fingerprint, logged in SOSUS databases and cross-referenced against prior deployments. The Poseidon wasn't alone. Deep beneath the surface of the Gulf of Oman, the USS Connecticut, a Seawolf-class fast attack submarine, had been running a silent trail operation on the Yuns for 11 days. The Connecticut's TB-29A thin-line towed array sonar had the Iranian submarine locked in a passive track so tight that her crew could have described what the Yun's crew ate for breakfast based on hull vibration patterns. Every course change, every speed adjustment, every attempt to go deep and break contact, the Connecticut saw all of it and said nothing. A cop parked in the dark, headlights off, watching a suspect drive in slow circles. Above the surface, the USS Bunker Hill, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser operating in the northern Arabian Sea, had her SPY one-phased array radar running in passive mode, cross-cueing with the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft that had been orbiting on a racetrack pattern at 25,000 feet since 0100. The Hawkeye's ADS-18 radar system can track over 2,000 simultaneous contacts at ranges beyond 300 miles. The 6 IRGCN fast boats showed up on that screen the moment they cleared the breakwater at Bandar Abbas. And threading all of this together, the Poseidon, the Connecticut, the Bunker Hill, the Hawkeye, the shore-based installations at Diego Garcia, was Link 16, NATO's tactical data network, a system that shares targeting quality information between every platform in a theater in near real time. When the Poseidon painted a fast boat, the Bunker Hill knew. When the Connecticut updated the Yune's track, the Hawkeye knew. Every sensor feeding every shooter. An integrated kill chain so seamless it functions less like a military operation and more like a single, distributed nervous system stretched across 500 miles of ocean. Tehran thought they were the hunters. They were in fact the hunted, and they had no idea. At 0412 hours, the Yunis makes her move. The Iranian submarine commander, following his operational orders to the letter, begins a slow turn toward the central shipping lane, positioning to lay a minefield across the deepest draft channel. It is the linchpin of the entire Iranian strategy. No mines, no closure. No closure, no leverage. The Connecticut watches, the Connecticut waits. And at 0419 hours, the Connecticut does something the Yune's commander will spend the rest of his career trying to explain to his superiors. She goes active. One sharp, deliberate ping from her BQQ-10 spherical array sonar, not a search ping, but a targeting ping. The kind of signal that says, in the universal language of undersea warfare, I have had you for 11 days. I know your name, I know your depth, I know your speed, and right now I am one trigger pull from ending your mission and your vessel. The Yunes freezes. In the control room of an Iranian submarine, a single active sonar ping from a Seawolf-class boat is not ambiguous. It is a sentence. The sentence reads, surface immediately or do not surface at all. At 0423 hours, the Yunes begins blowing ballast. She surfaces. On the surface, things move just as fast. The 6 IRGCN fast attack craft are now 40 nautical miles into the strait when the Bunker Hill comes up on Channel 16. Not to threaten, not to negotiate. Simply to transmit a single block of data, the precise GPS coordinates, speed, and heading of all 6 vessels, cross-referenced with their departure time, identity, and the fact that they are being illuminated by the Mark 99 fire control radar of a Ticonderoga-class cruiser with 62 Mark 41 vertical launch system cells loaded and ready. Simultaneously, 2 F/A-18F Super Hornets from the USS Gerald R. Ford, operating 300 miles to the south, arrive overhead at 500 knots, supersonic run-ins they've been holding for exactly this moment. They do not fire. They do not need to. They simply turn on their AN/APG-79 AES A fire control radars and let the IRGCN commanders watch their own radar warning receivers scream. Like hearing a mosquito in a rock concert, except this mosquito means a harpoon is 30 seconds behind it if the answer is wrong. The Shahed drone swarms, encountering the Ford's AN/SLQ-32 V6 shipboard electronic warfare system and the Nulka active missile decoy system, begin receiving jamming signals so precise that their data links dissolve into static. One by one, they diverge from their programmed flight paths, confused and blind, until they simply fall into the sea. By 0501 hours, 74 minutes after Tehran declared the strait closed, the Yunes is on the surface with her crew topside in international waters. The 6 fast boats have reversed course and are running at maximum speed back toward Bandar Abbas. The drone swarm is gone. The shore batteries, their targeting radars continuously painted by a Growler electronic attack aircraft circling safely outside their engagement envelope, never receive the authorization codes they need to fire. Channel 16 crackles one final time. The voice is calm, professional, American. The strait is open. All commercial traffic may resume. Have a good morning. Tehran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz lasted exactly 74 minutes. What followed in the Iranian capital was not a military debrief, it was a political earthquake. The IRGCN commanders, who had promised the Supreme National Security Council a decisive fait accompli, a closure that would force American negotiations and extract concessions on sanctions, now had to explain how their submarine surfaced without a shot being fired, how their drone swarms fell into the sea without an explosion, and how 6 Revolutionary Guard fast boats turned around at the mere sight of radar locks they couldn't break. The answers were all the same. The Americans knew everything before we started. And that is the part that truly haunted Tehran, not the defeat itself, but the revelation that American intelligence penetration of their operational planning was so deep, so persistent, and so invisible that the entire operation had been a performance stage for an audience that already knew the ending. The acoustic signature of the Yuns, every cavitation note, every mechanical harmonic, is now permanently archived in the Naval Undersea Warfare Center database at Newport, Rhode Island. Future American submarine commanders will track that boat the moment it clears port. The electronic emissions from every Iranian shore battery radar that came online that morning have been cataloged and entered into the electronic order of battle. The command and control communications intercepted during those 74 minutes gave signals intelligence analysts in Fort Meade enough material to map the IRGCN's operational chain of command 3 levels deep. Iran lost one morning. America gained years of intelligence. This was not a skirmish. This was not a standoff. This was a demonstration, a carefully orchestrated display of what American strategists call full-spectrum dominance. The ability to see everything, know everything, and act before the adversary finishes his first sentence. Project Freedom, the operational codename the 5th Fleet assigned to this response package, was not improvised. It was waiting. It had been waiting for years, rehearsed and refined for exactly this scenario, at exactly this location, against exactly this adversary. The lesson Tehran received was not delivered in missiles or blood. It was delivered in silence and in radar pings and in the image of a Revolutionary Guard submarine crew standing on their own hull in open water, blinking in the early morning light, while American cameras recorded every face. That image is the message. That image is the deterrent. That image is what Project Freedom was designed to produce. Now we want to know what you think. Was Iran's miscalculation a failure of intelligence, a failure of nerve among their commanders, or a deliberate test to probe how deep American surveillance of the Strait actually runs? And second, with China watching every second of this from Beijing, does this demonstration make a Taiwan Strait confrontation more or less likely in the next 5 years? Leave your analysis in the comments. The best answers will be featured in our next deep dive. If this script gave you something to think about, hit the like button and subscribe, and then make sure notifications are turned on because our next video is going to cover something that has been classified until very recently. We're going into the full story of the USS Jimmy Carter, the most secretive submarine in the United States Navy, and what she has been doing under the Arctic ice for the last 18 months. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and victory.